It wasn't on any blueprint, not in the zoning records, not in the city archives. They found it by accident during a subway expansion under the east end of the city. A tunnel collapsed. When workers broke through the debris, they uncovered a sealed underground medical wing, completely intact. Rows of hospital beds, steel bifopoles, old analog monitors humming faintly, though no power lines were connected. And inside those beds, patients, not corpses, not mummies, bodies, perfectly preserved, unmoving, eyes closed, skin pale but soft, hearts beating slowly. The pulse was faint, barely perceptible, yet measurable. No documents, no admission logs, no identification tags, just wristbands with single initials and a date that never changes. Admitted, unknown. Forensics ruled out cryogenic suspension. No signs of embalming. No decae. They're not dead, but they're not alive. And the strangest part? They're all breathing in sync. Like something somewhere is still keeping them alive. The facility lies 40 meters beneath a decommissioned tram station on the east edge of the city, an area once used during the war for civil defense drills. Old records mention storage bunkers, but nothing this size. The walls are tiled in pale green ceramic, cracked in places but sterile. Emergency signs are in 4 languages, none currently used in the region. A faint smell of antiseptic lingers in the air, despite no working ventilation. Time seemed posed. There are 28 beds, each spaced evenly apart, bolted to the floor. Next to each bed, a small table with personal items, hairbrushes, diaries, photographs, all untouched by dust. No dates, no full names, but one item reappears beside multiple beds. A black and white photo of a man in a medical coat, face obscured by glare. Behind him, a chalkboard with the words, "No resuscitation, no release." Motion sensors confirm something disturbing. The heart monitors continue to pulse, not continuously, but on a perfect cycle. 18 seconds of silence, 3 seconds of synchronized heartbeat. Even the lights flicker in rhythm. Attempts to extract the patients fail. One was removed and brought to the surface. Within minutes, their heartbeat stopped. Not cardiac arrest, just ceased, like a switch flip. The body cooled immediately, as if it had never been alive at all. When returned underground, the heart resumed, like nothing had happened. The underground hospital is not connected to any power grid, but its lights stay on, its machines hum, and the beds never empty. Because since the site was uncovered, 3 more patients have appeared. No one saw how they got there. They weren't on camera, but their initials match missing persons from the city above. On the 12th day after discovery, a medical team was granted restricted access. They entered in full biohazard gear, accompanied by forensic technicians and a neurologist. The goal: determine if the patients could be revived. That goal quickly changed. Initial scans showed no brain activity flatlines across EEG monitors, but thermal imaging told a different story. Each patient emitted a faint heat signature concentrated around the temporal lobe, pulsing like a signal, as if their minds weren't inactive, just somewhere else. A nurse attempted to lift one patient's eyelids. They twitched. The eyes rolled completely black, not rotted, not diseased, just blank, like polished stone. Then, one of the monitors began printing a strip of EKG data, except it wasn't data, it was text. Printed in English though, the monitor was analog. Do not unplug. They are still in consultation. The team froze. Within seconds, the paper caught fire, spontaneously. No heat source, no smoke, just black ash curling upward, then vanishing into nothing. That night, 2 members of the medical crew were hospitalized. One suffered severe dehydration despite drinking normally all day. The other developed temporary blindness, claiming they couldn't see above anymore. When asked what they meant, the technician repeated, "The ceiling isn't where we left it. It's lower, and it's breathing." Later, security footage from the hospital's hallway revealed something stranger. At exactly 3:03 a.m., one of the corridor cameras flickered. For 4 frames, a figure appeared standing between 2 beds, tall, wearing an outdated surgical mask, hands clasped behind the back. They didn't move. They weren't reflected in any metallic surface. And when a still was enhanced, it showed the faint outline of a clipboard. The only visible writing, patient, Ramos. Status, conditioned, room 29. There are only 28 rooms. The hospital is not on any map, not on any survey, but it's real. The walls are cool to the touch. The metal is not rusted. The lighting is soft, unwavering. It behaves like it's still in operation, but there are no staff, no documentation, no instructions, except one thing: a terminal, bolted to a wall at the far end of the ward. Its ancient monochrome, green text CRT, keyboard with Cyrillic keys. No cables, no plug, yet it hums faintly. Every 6 hours, it activates on its own, and every time, a single message types across the screen, admitting, slot available. One technician tried to access the interface. As he touched the keyboard, his hands trembled. He later said it felt like touching something alive. Attempts to destroy the terminal failed. The keys melted into their base and reformed, like wax rewinding itself. Behind the terminal is a locked door, no handle, no seam, just a metal plate etched with a symbol. A horizontal figure 8, not infinity, but a closed loop. And under it, one word, intubation. No one has ever opened that door, but audio devices placed near it recorded something. Breathing, not mechanical, not electronic, human, rhythmic. Asleep. One night, the door plate changed. The symbol was gone, replaced with initials. ER, the same as on the clipboard from the camera footage. And then a new message on the terminal, all rooms filled. Prepare next wing. Since then, an adjoining wall in the ward, once solid concrete, has begun to soften. Cracks appear. Paint bubbles, like something behind it is expanding. And in the last week, 4 more patients have appeared. No one saw them arrive, but their eyes move beneath their eyelids and sink, as if dreaming, as if sharing the same dream. Some call it a cryo chamber, others a mass coma ward. But the truth is, no theory holds for long, because the patients never change, yet the building does. One idea suggests it's a prototype for long-term consciousness transfer, a hidden Cold War-era experiment where minds are uploaded and stored, suspended just outside awareness. But then why are new patients appearing? And who is adding them? Another theory posits the hospital is not human in origin at all, that it's an interface, an organic machine left behind by something non-terrestrial, still functioning on programming we don't understand. The consultation messages point towards something ongoing, something active. Note decay, note preservation process. Some believe the patients aren't victims, they're volunteers, or worse, replicas, created to simulate decisions in some larger system. Their synchronized heartbeats, signals, not symptoms. Pulses in a network. But there's one theory no one wants to talk about, that the hospital is not waiting for someone to wake up. It's waiting for the last room to fill, that the facility isn't incomplete. It's a seed, growing slowly, patiently. And when the final patient arrives, when the next wing is built, the system will go live, whatever that means. No one has touched the terminal in days, but it still updates. This morning, a new line appeared on the screen. Total capacity, 32. Occupied, 31. Next patient, ready for transfer. Initiating escort protocol. At 3:03 a.m., the cameras in the construction shaft flickered again. 4 frames. A tall figure in surgical garb, clipboard in hand, and for the first time, it looks straight at the camera. It started at a garage sale. A cardboard box labeled Home Movies, $5. Dozens of VHS tapes, birthdays, camping trips, Christmas morning. Smiling kids, laughing parents, nothing unusual. Until it was. The first person who noticed was a hobbyist archivist. He was digitizing the footage when he spotted something off. In the background of nearly every tape behind the family dinner, the school play, the trip to Yosemite, there was a figure, sometimes by a window, sometimes outside a fence, sometimes just standing at the edge of the frame. In the dark, always the same, tall, dressed in a plain, dark sweater, facing the family, never moving, never blinking, never acknowledged. No one in the videos ever mentions him. Not a glance, not a reaction, nothing. At first, the archivist thought it was a relative, until he looked closer. The man was in tapes filmed years apart. He never aged. He never got closer. And when the footage was paused and zoomed in, his face was always blurred. Not distorted by tape quality, blurred like a fingerprint. Like the lens refused to remember him. And that's when the archivist checked the last tape, labeled Family Goodbye, March 1997. Only this time, the man wasn't in the background. He was holding the camera. The tape spanned more than 15 years. The earliest is dated 1982, a child's birthday party in a modest backyard. The latest, March 1997, a family packing up their house, waving goodbye to the camera. Different homes, different states, sometimes different families, but the same man appears in all of them. The archivist, a man named David, cross-checked the details, license plates, fashion, weather patterns, everything lined up. There's no question. These are real families, in real homes, filmed across real time. He even tracked one of them down. A woman named Sandra appears in 4 of the tapes as a child. Now, in her 42nd, she remembers the tapes being made her father loved home movies. But when David showed her the clips, her reaction was cold. That man wasn't there, she said. He showed her again, the tall figure visible in every scene. Her face turned pale. I don't remember him, but I feel like I should. She paused the video, trembling. The frame showed the man standing outside a sliding glass door. We didn't have that door back then, she whispered. That remodel didn't happen until after he died. David checked the renovation permits. She was right. The scene was filmed in 1986. The door wasn't installed until 1989, but the man was standing in front of it 3 years early. And it gets worse. In one tape, dated 1992, the man is standing in the reflection of a mirror in a room full of children, but no one is holding the camera. The breakthrough came from a tape labeled simply Halloween 2088. A grainy scene, children trick-or-treating down a quiet suburban street. Laughter, flashlights, plastic pumpkin buckets. Then, in the final minute, the camera tilts awkwardly, as if slipping, and just for a second, the man appears right next to the camera, closer than ever, standing beside a mailbox, looking not at the children, but straight into the lens. He doesn't move, but the background warps slightly, like heat rising off asphalt. And when the tape ends, there's a flicker of static, then a single frame of something not filmed. A room no one remembers, a windowless space, and in the center, the same man, now sitting in a chair, hands on his lap, smiling. The image is barely visible, but digitally enhanced. A strange detail emerges. He's surrounded by televisions, each one playing footage from the tapes. David found similar anomalies across other recordings. One tape loops for exactly 6 minutes and 11 seconds before resetting. Another contains background noise, low-frequency murmuring that forms a pattern when converted to spectrogram. A crude outline of a human face. But here's the real anomaly. In one digitized file, the metadata was corrupted. When recovered, the original creation date was listed as the 12th of March, 2036, 4 decades in the future. The file name, Family Archive. Subject, David. And in the corner of the screen, nearly too faint to see, the man again, watching, always watching. And this time, he's smiling. The box of tapes seemed ordinary. Black VHS cassettes with handwritten labels, some in block letters. Xmas, 2091, Pool Day. Others in vague scrawls, him again. Don't rewind. But the tapes aren't just old. They're incomplete, as if overwritten, but not entirely. When played on older equipment, ghost frames emerge, brief flashes of different homes, different faces, different decades. All share one thing: the man in the dark sweater. Digital restoration experts discovered something stranger. In every tape where the man appears, the depth of field subtly shifts. Objects near him sharpen unnaturally. Light behaves oddly, casting no shadows or too many. He doesn't reflect. He doesn't distort, but the tape itself flickers, like it's unsure if he belongs. One reel, marked only with the symbol, an open eye, contains no visible footage, just black. But the audio track plays breathing, measured, close, and overlaid with soft whispering, layered beneath static. He's still with them. He always was. David attempted to digitize that reel. His computer crashed. When it rebooted, all his desktop icons were gone except one. Look behind you, Avi. He never clicked it. He unplugged everything. But that night, while reviewing raw footage on his handheld viewer, a new file had appeared. Not downloaded, not transferred, just there. It was his own childhood birthday party, one he didn't remember filming. And in the corner beside the cake stood the man. Only this time, the blur had sharpened, just enough to reveal a hint of his own face. At first, the theories were simple. Some said it was a stalker, others, a hoax spliced into the tapes. But that didn't explain the time gaps. The figure appeared in footage decades apart, with no aging. Even before some of the families had moved into those homes, others proposed a tulpa, a thought form created by shared attention, that the families, by unknowingly recording him, made him real. A more disturbing theory emerged from a linguist who studied the whispered audio. She discovered phonetic patterns that repeated every 21 seconds. When decoded into English, they formed a sentence. The one behind the lens learns last. Some believe the man isn't just watching, he's collecting, not memories, not faces, but versions. Each tape, a preserved loop. Each family, a variation. And the man, a constant, an anchor between worlds. One day, David returned to the original garage where he'd found the box. It was gone, The house was boarded up, no records of the sale, no name on file for the former owner. Later that week, he received a package, no postage. Inside, a single cassette labeled only with the date, tomorrow. He played it. The video was static, then black, then him, sitting at his desk, watching the screen, looking confused, and in the reflection of the monitor, the man stood behind him, closer than ever, unblurred, smiling. The screen went dark. The final frame, a living room, unfamiliar, a young boy blowing out candles, the man holding the camera, and someone whispering, "You were always in the background. Now it's your turn to record." It started as a dorm room rumor. You ever dream about the ceiling crawling? At first, no one took it seriously. College students staying up too late, sleep deprivation, shared stress. But then, the stories kept coming from different students, in different rooms, all on the 8th floor. Some had dreamed they're lying in bed. Everything looks normal, except reversed. Gravity feels off. Furniture is upside down, but still bolted to the floor. And on the ceiling, a figure crawling, not fast, not slow, just steady. Its limbs bent wrong. Its face, almost human. Eyes that blink too rarely. No mouth, only soft breathing like wind through teeth. One student woke up screaming. Another transferred without warning. But the dreams kept spreading. Soon, even students who didn't live on the 8th floor began having them. Faculty too, always the same details. And when the school finally reviewed the security footage from that floor, they discovered the impossible. Every recording was flipped upside down. No glitch, no corruption, just wrong. And in one of them, barely visible, a pale hand pulling out of the ceiling tile. The dormitory is part of a large university campus in Northern Europe. Mid-century design, concrete hallways, ceilings just low enough to feel tight in winter. The 8th floor was identical to the others, at least on paper. Same layout, same lighting, but students often reported strange inconsistencies. Doors would jam not from age, but from the wrong side, as if someone had locked them inward. Clocks ran slightly fast. Light bulbs flickered even after replacement. And then there was the elevator. It never stopped at the 8th floor unless manually requested. Even then, the doors would open slower than on other floors. Like the building itself was reluctant to let people in or out. The campus IT team reviewed surveillance footage. Nothing unusual until they paused at 3:33 a.m. every night for 11 seconds. The feed inverted, not glitched, fully mirrored, and flipped as if the hallway itself was rotating. In some frames, shadows crawled across the floor. Bud Kastnersource, an architecture student, tried mapping the floor manually, but when he compared his notes to the official blueprints, something was off. The rooms were slightly bigger than they should have been, not by much, just enough that, over time, the difference added up, almost like space itself had been stretched. And then he noticed something else. All the original documents referred to the building as having 7 floors, no records of an 8th, yet the floor exists. The students live there, but the university's own fire map lists basement, ground, 992, roof. No 8th, no explanation, just an empty margin beside a note. Repurposed 1986. Archive clearance pending. The turning point came when 3 students, all from different rooms, filed near-identical reports with the campus health office. They dreamed they were awake in their own dorm rooms, except everything was inverted. Bed bolted to the ceiling, door handle upside down, windows opening into black fog, and on the ceiling it crawled. Each described it the same way. Long limbs, pale skin, eyes too wide, too knowing, and no mouth. Just a slit where a mouth should be stitched shut. It didn't move aggressively. It just watched, hanging, slowly rotating its head, listening. But then came the worst part. Each student claimed they woke up screaming, only to realize they were still dreaming. In fact, they had no idea how many times they'd woken up. One student recorded herself overnight. The footage showed her asleep, motionless. But in the final hours, she sits up, blank eyes, mouth twitching, and she whispers, "Don't look up." It notices when you notice, then lies back down. She has no memory of speaking. Campus security was called. All students on the 8th floor were given temporary relocation offers. Most refused. When asked why, one student said, "Because if I leave, I might forget." Another said, "I already tried. But when I woke up in the new room, the ceiling was closer." Then someone noticed something chilling. All those who had the dream had the same object on their desk, a small, university-issued mirror. They'd been included in welcome kits the year before, and in each case, the mirror had fallen face down. The building was constructed in 1968, but in the records, something is strange. An entire floor planned, approved, and funded was never publicly acknowledged. The construction schematics referred to it as Level R, not 8. Not top, just R. The blueprints contain symbols not found in architectural legend. A spiral within a square, a measurement listed as Derity. Time differential. Maintenance staff report strange malfunctions exclusive to that floor. Light bulbs burn hotter, plaster cracks in straight lines, always forming a grid, always reforming after repainting. And then there's the mirrors. Every resident who had the dream had a mirror in their room, same size, same manufacturer, all distributed through a forgotten school orientation program sponsored by a company that no longer exists. An engineer scanned the mirror's backing. Inside was a wafer-thin layer of metal, not registered in any known alloy database. Reflectivity, inconsistent. When placed under infrared, the mirror displayed internal motion pulses like breathing. When one mirror was broken, it bled condensation, and within seconds, the lights on the 8th floor flickered in unison. Security footage confirmed it. Every camera feed inverted for 33 frames, and in one of them, the figure was captured in full, hunched, inverted, but staring into a mirror held in its own hand. That mirror showed a dorm room, not the hallway, not the ceiling, someone's room, still occupied. On the back of the mirror, a phrase scratched faintly in English: "You're not dreaming, you're remembering." Some psychologists call it shared hypnagogia, a collective dream triggered by environment, stress, and suggestion. Others say it's mass hysteria, urban legend fed by repetition, but none of that explains the inverted video, or the mirror that seemed to record events that hadn't happened yet, or the fact that every dreamer described the same room, including furniture that only appeared after the semester began. One theory suggests the 8th floor is a closed cognitive loop, a space designed to induce recursive dreaming, not by ghosts, not by trauma, but by architecture itself. The layout triggers the mind to spiral inward. Mirrors reinforce false awakenings. And whatever it is, isn't trying to scare the students, it's trying to map them. A linguistics professor analyzed the whispered phrases recorded from sleep talkers. They weren't just nonsense, they were room numbers, coordinates, commands like return to frame, invert a recall, do not observe the ceiling. One morning, a janitor found something taped under a desk in room 813. It was a photograph, sepia tone, undated. It showed a long hallway, identical to the 8th floor, but instead of fluorescent lights, the ceiling was glass. And behind that glass, dozens of students stared down, as if from the other side of the dream. On the back of the photo, scrawled in pencil, "We left, but something stayed, and now it dreams of us." Since then, several residents have moved out, but some refuse. They say the dreams have stopped, or rather, they've caught up. Now, when they wake, the furniture is still upside down. And the thing on the ceiling, it's watching from beneath the floor. It has no title, no metadata, just a 3-minute, 33-second audio file shared through obscure forums and encrypted links on the dark web. No artist, no origin, no explanation. It doesn't play music. There's no melody, no lyrics, just the sound of breathing, shallow, rhythmic, mixed with the hiss of static. Something wet like cloth dragged across concrete, and beneath it all, a low-frequency pulse, exactly 1.92 hertz. Most people shut it off within seconds, but those who listen all the way through, they report the same thing. Something starts watching them, not a presence in the room, not a hallucination, but a mirror image that stops following their movement, a voice that doesn't echo, a heartbeat that shifts slightly, but no longer aligns with their own. One listener said she heard footsteps behind her phone. Another swore her reflection blinked twice, but she only blinked once. A third man listened 5 times in a row. He now refuses to speak above a whisper. He says sound draws attention. He also says the audio file doesn't end at 3:33. Not really. The silence after, that's when it starts listening back. No one knows where it was first uploaded. The file, simply titled 3M33. WAV was found on an abandoned darknet server in early 2014, nested inside a folder named Ears Aren't Safe. The directory contained nothing else. No logs, no traffic data, only that file sitting alone. The earliest confirmed download was by a sound engineer in Krakow who believed it was an encoded distress call. She analyzed the waveform, expecting encryption. Instead, she found a pattern. The static isn't random. It mimics breathing patterns under sedation. The heartbeat matches rodent frequency, not human. And at 2:47, there's a sudden spike that sounds like laughter played in reverse. Within a week, the engineer reported strange phenomena. Her studio microphones picked up sounds when unplugged. The waveform began corrupting every file she opened. And in one recording, she heard her own voice whispering, "Stop." But she hadn't spoken. The file spread quietly. Each person who heard it passed it on intentionally or not. Some renamed it. Others embedded it in white noise compilations, hidden in sleep playlists, folded inside ASMR. But no matter where it's placed, it finds its way back to 333. The time code never shifts. Even when trimmed, the file reverts. Even when deleted, it sometimes reappears. Same folder, same length. One listener claimed he left the file running overnight. In the morning, it was gone, but his digital clock now froze at 3:33 a.m. every night for 33 seconds, and then resumed, as if time itself paused to listen. The first confirmed incident occurred 6 days after a college student uploaded a reaction video titled, "I listened to the 333 file and nothing happened." The video was uneventful. He played the audio. "Hey, joked." He laughed. 3 days later, he was found unconscious in his dorm bathroom, mouth bleeding, eardrums ruptured, but not from volume. The medical report listed no internal damage, no sound injury, just 2 words written in the notes section, self-inflicted. The student couldn't remember what happened, but he kept whispering the same phrase. "It found me in the quiet. It saw where the silence begins." After that, the file gained a reputation passed around in private groups like a dare. But the effects weren't always immediate. Some listeners reported minor glitches, lights flickering at the same timestamp every night, shadows that didn't match movement, whispers when headphones were unplugged. Others claimed it changed reflections. One woman said that after listening, her mirror no longer reflected her in real time. There was always a slight delay. She could smile and watch her reflection catch up 2 seconds later, then blink and the reflection wouldn't blink at all. A field technician in Finland ran the waveform through an oscilloscope. He found that the frequency at 307 didn't match any Earth-based source. When he played it aloud through an analog speaker, the wallpaper behind him began to peel in perfect horizontal lines, as if reacting. But the worst incident came from a sound archivist who tried to isolate the layers of the file. He removed the heartbeat, the static, the breath, and what remained was something else. A tone, not kite audible, not kite mechanical. When inverted and slowed, it formed a voice. Only one sentence. "Thank you for opening the channel." He never spoke again. The file is always exactly 3 minutes and 33 seconds long, no matter the format, no matter the compression. Even if it's converted from .wav to .mp3, .flac, .ogo, or played backwards, it remains 333. Attempts to trim it fail. The file re-expands. Its checksum resets. The timestamp locks. Spectrograms show more than just noise. They show shapes. One analyst discovered that the mid-frequency range, when mapped visually, forms a crude top-down blueprint of a circular structure. No known building matches it. Others see faces, or eyes, or teeth. There's a recurring motif in the spectrogram, an arc, 3 dots, then another arc. Someone overlaid it on an ancient symbol chart. It matched a Proto-Sumerian glyph for threshold. The static isn't white noise, it's echo, but from a space too large to be natural, a reverb with no known decay rate. Listeners have reported dreams after exposure. Always the same location, a long, windowless corridor, soft red lighting, and at the end, a speaker on a stand. Nothing is playing until they step closer, and then a voice says, "You are not the first." Some believe the file is not meant to be heard, it's meant to be completed. There are fragments hidden in unrelated videos, number stations, shortwave frequencies where the same heartbeat reappears, same breath, same hiss, and when layered together, the tones begin to align, build, like something is assembling. In the original file, it's just the first piece. The timestamp 333 has become a marker. One anonymous poster claimed he received a call at exactly 3:33 a.m. No ringtone, just a voice whispering, "Finish the sound. We're almost here." Theories abound, but none agree on what the audio file is. Some believe it's a recorded anomaly, a sound captured during a moment when the fabric of perception thinned, like a seismic pulse from another place, accidentally recorded and shared. Others insist it's not sound at all, not in the traditional sense. Rather, a carrier frequency, a delivery system for something non-auditory, an idea, a presence, a seed. A growing faction online refers to it as the invitation. They believe listening doesn't cause the anomalies. Listening accepts them, that the file is asking for listeners, as many as possible, so that what's behind the silence can map its way through. One cryptographer discovered that when the raw waveform is encoded into base 64 and then processed as an image, it produces repeating grid patterns. Inside the grid, coordinates, dates, and a phrase that, when translated phonetically, resembles "our signal was not the first." So what was? A darker theory posits that the file is self-replicating, not digitally, but neurologically. That once heard, the structure of the sound imprints itself in the brain's auditory cortex. The person doesn't just remember the file, they become a transmitter. The file has already disappeared from the surface web. Searches now return empty results. But some say if you listen carefully during certain white noise, it returns, faint, just beneath the static, waiting. A Reddit post now deleted claimed to find a final version of the file, titled 3M33 Final. WAV. Its spectrogram, when flipped and mirrored, reveals a simple line of text. Now that you've heard me, I know the shape of your silence. No one knows what that means. But those who heard the final version, they don't sleep anymore. They just lie in bed, listening. They never find it by looking. They only stumble upon it, tucked between alleys that never existed the day before. No sign, no address, no doors that make a sound, just a narrow hallway, always dim, always cold, and always leading to the same place. A library, but not one filled with ordinary books. The people who found it all say the same thing. The shelves are endless. The lighting hums like it's breathing, and every book they touch has their name on the spine, not just first and last, but middle name, handwriting, even childhood nicknames. Inside, not stories, not fiction, but detailed accounts of their own lives, down to forgotten arguments, private thoughts, shameful moments no one else should know. The pages flip themselves, not forward toward the end, and those who read far enough, they always say the same thing. The last page has a date, and once you see it, you know exactly what it means. There's no map to it, no coordinates. The library doesn't appear on satellite images, CCTV, or even memory until you've been there. Those who enter often say it felt like an accident, a wrong turn behind a grocery store, a staircase that wasn't there yesterday, an alley that seemed longer than it should be. And then, the smell. Old paper, damp wood, and something faintly coppery like dried blood beneath varnish. Inside, it's always the same. No windows, ceilings too high to see, bookshelves stretching up into shadow, no dust. Yet everything feels ancient. The architecture doesn't make sense. One man said he walked straight for 10 minutes, then turned a corner and found himself back at the entrance. Another walked up a staircase that curved upside down halfway through, but never fell. There are no visible clocks, no natural light, but everyone says time moves. Wrong. You don't get tired, but you forget how long you've been reading. The books are shelved alphabetically by thought. Some shelves whisper, others hum, and in the far corner, behind a black curtain, is the only shelf that doesn't label the spines. There, every book has a blank cover until you pick it up. Then, in fresh black ink, your name appears. And if you open it, you'll see things that haven't happened yet. No one walks into the library twice. At least, not the same way. The first documented case was a woman named Camille D., who had survived 2 suicide attempts. She told her therapist that during the lowest moment of her life, she found herself standing at the mouth of a narrow hallway behind an abandoned butcher shop. At the end, a door, no knob, just a push inward. Inside, she said, was silence so complete it sounded hollow. The first book she pulled off the shelf had her childhood handwriting on the title page. She flipped through the pages in disbelief. Every word matched her life, not in summary, but verbatim thoughts, entries she never wrote down, feelings she'd buried, things she had forgotten or wanted to. She kept reading until she reached a passage that hadn't happened yet. Camille folds the page. She closes the book. She walks to the desk near the exit, and she signs. There was no desk when she entered, but as she turned, one appeared, black oak, polished, with a leather-bound ledger open to a blank page and a fountain pen resting gently atop it. Her hand moved on its own. She signed her name. When she looked up, she was standing outside, in daylight. She had no memory of walking out and no idea where the alley had gone. It was just a brick wall now, but the pen was still in her pocket, and her wrist bore a thin, fresh scar behind the ear, like a single stitch. Neat, clean, intentional. Since then, dozens of others have shared similar stories. The exact layout of the library changes slightly each time, but the ritual remains. Read, sign, forget how you left. But something always comes back with you. The books are identical in shape, rough cloth covers, no ISBN, no publisher's mark. Each spine stitched with uncanny precision, like someone sewed them shut, then slit them open again. Inside, the pages are thick, yellowed, and warm to the touch. Not like old paper, like skin held just beneath a lamp. Some entries are typed, others written in the reader's own handwriting, though they never remember writing them. But the content is always personal. It knows you, your earliest memory, your worst lie, even the thought you're having as you open the page. It writes with you, not before you. One man reported reading a line that hadn't existed a second earlier. He hesitates. He wonders if turning the next page will hurt. And when he did, he felt a sharp pain behind his left eye. The next sentence read, "It only stings the first time." Some books loop. The last page leads back to the first, with subtle changes. Others end abruptly mid-sentence, then bleed ink across the margins, like the story is resisting its own closure. One woman claimed her book had no end, no last page, only blank paper that kept turning. She says she writes in it now, when she sleeps. Another found an envelope tucked between chapters. Inside, a photo of her at age 8, sitting in a room she didn't recognize. The window behind her showed shelves, the same kind, the same glow, the same library. No one ever remembers seeing other visitors. Yet sometimes, when readers look up from the page, they catch movement in their peripheral vision, like someone ducked behind the next shelf. And then there's the scar. Every person who's returned from the library bears it. A single, clean suture behind the right ear, as if something was inserted or taken, or maybe both. Some say it's a myth, a coping mechanism created by those on the edge of death, a shared hallucination for people in the deepest grief. But the scar is real, consistent, surgically precise. Others believe the library is a transitional space, a liminal archive for souls hovering between acceptance and surrender. A place that doesn't decide whether you live or die, only whether your story remains. One folklore researcher found identical accounts in cultures thousands of miles apart, a hidden scriptorium where the dying can rewrite a final chapter, a house of memory where pages appear only when forgotten, a book room beneath the world, where each life is stored until someone reads it through. A neuroscientist who entered the library in 2011 left his research unfinished. His final note read, "Consciousness isn't stored in the brain, it's referenced. The self is a draft, and the library is where we save the file." One chilling theory suggests no one ever leaves the library, that what returns to the world is just a copy, a narrative echo that acts out the remainder of a written script, and that the scar, a bookmark, so the library can always return to your story. Even if you forget. Years after his visit, a man received a package, no return address. Inside, a new book. The spine bore his name, but the cover read, Volume 2. He hasn't opened it, but at night, he hears pages turning in the other room, and he swears that once, he saw his reflection blink before he did.